Chapter 22. Logan studied the map of Xanadu laid out at the dining room table. Zoe had insisted he have the first shower, so now she was upstairs while he and Blue had hot cocoa and cinnamon buns. His clothes had been whisked through the dryer again, but they still felt stiff and uncomfortable. He was trying really hard to act as casual as Blue, as if he wasn't still shaking on the inside. I totally get it now, Logan said to Blue. What's that? Why Zoe's clothes are always a mess. I noticed it at school, and I figured she just didn't care about that stuff. But I've been here less than a day, and my clothes have been set on fire by a phoenix, drowned by a kelpie, rolled on by a mammoth, clawed and nibbled by griffin cubs, and drenched in Kraken ink. It's amazing she has anything to wear to school at all. Well, it's also true she doesn't care about clothes, Blue said. He sat down in one of the squashy tan armchairs, holding his cocoa between his hands. But I know what you mean. And you haven't even seen how much Zoe does around here. She's like a never-ending chore machine. Don't you have to do all that stuff too? Logan traced the streets from the menagerie to his house with his finger on the map. Not exactly, Blue said, sounding a little guilty. It's kind of a whole thing with my dad. Was that your dad down at the lake? The shouting, green-bearded man had looked familiar from the photo in Blue's room. Yeah. Blue shifted uncomfortably and then muttered into his cocoa. He's kind of the king. Logan pivoted to look at him. Blue shook his hair forward into his face and avoided Logan's eyes. Hang on, Logan said. Did you just say your dad is a king? That's right, Matthew said, swinging into the room from the kitchen. He grabbed 4 cinnamon buns off the plate on the table. King of the mermaids, at least the ones living here, which makes Blue, obviously, a prince. Blue winced. It's no big deal, he said, but Dad doesn't like it when he catches me doing chores, that's all. I'm supposed to help with mermaid stuff, but he doesn't let me do much of that either. Tough life, Logan joked. Well, Matthew said with his mouth full, keep in mind that Melissa is his mom. Hey, Blue said mildly, shut up. I'm just saying, he might not have to do chores, but he does have to be in the most advanced math class and get straight A's or Melissa will flip. So that's not fun exactly, Matthew said. Right, Blue? Blue shrugged. It's fine. Mr. Khan came into the room, clapping his hands and rubbing them together. All right, Logan, he said, let's see your tracker instincts at work. Matthew gave him an odd look, part curious, part offended. Logan thought, but Mr. Khan went on without noticing. Where do you think we should start looking for the griffins? He leaned over the map on the table. Logan sat down nearby. He liked the way Mr. Khan treated him like another grown-up. It made up a little for how incredibly stupid he felt about the kelpie. Here's what I know, he said, pulling a notepad and pen toward him. There's a red male who really likes food. I bet he's the one who ate everything in the school cafeteria. Definitely, Zoe said from the doorway. She was wearing a dark blue turtleneck, jeans, and small silver earrings. Her hair was still wet, and she was rubbing it with a white towel. She actually didn't look like a total mess for once. As she sat down next to him, Logan realized her earrings were tiny silver griffins. Cool, he said. I like your earrings. She touched her ears. For luck, she said. He slid the plate of cinnamon buns over to her, and she took one. Mr. Khan was nodding, staring at the map. So we look for anywhere with a lot of food missing. Good idea. Maybe the pizza place, Logan said, tapping the restaurant near the library. I noticed it was closed last night, which is weird. What about the other 2 griffins? Zoe asked. I don't have any ideas for the great female yet, Logan said. Scorp told me she likes secrets and she's clever. Scorp told me she likes secrets and she's clever. Not much to work with. But the other one, the brown male, his name is Clonk. He wants to be just like Clink, so I think he'll be trying to follow in her footsteps. Figures, Matthew snorted. Bossy older sisters. Zoe and I know all about that. Luckily, her big brother is totally awesome. He tapped the chore wheel by the doors. For instance, I did your aviary rounds last night, so you can pick up mine today while I'm out with Mom and Dad searching for griffins. Zoe rolled her eyes. Fine, I'll add it to my list. She pulled out her notebook with all the triangles and squiggles. Logan realized it must be a kind of code. Each item had a little box in front of it. Some checked off, most of them not. Some muttered to herself as she wrote. She muttered to herself as she wrote, feed the salamanders, ask Mooncrusher for an extra blanket for Pelly, Saturday fire safety equipment check, let Captain graze by the griffin enclosure before that grass gets too long, check on Scratch in case he's not eating because he's sick. Actually, Zoe, said her dad, you're on griffin hunting duty today, and that's it. Wait, what? Matthew looked startled. Zoe's coming with us? You're not going anywhere, Mr. Khan corrected. I need you to install the software updates on Snappa's list. Matthew crossed his arms. But I'm the one with tracker training. I should be looking for the griffins. You're also the only one who can rustle that computer, which is why I asked you to install the updates earlier this week. I don't know what you've been doing instead, but now they have to get done. So you're staying here until it's finished. I think my training isn't everything, said Mr. Khan. He winked at Logan. Instinct count for a lot, too. Matthew frowned and turned to look out at the menagerie. Who's going to do the chores? He asked. Kiko will do them for you and Zoe. Matthew let out a slightly strangled noise, and Zoe raised her eyebrows. Oh, really? She said. Which Kiko is that? Not the one who lives here. We'll take care of that, her dad said firmly. I have to go speak with Cobalt about the grate and the Kelpie. Zoe, I want you and Logan and Blue to head out now and start looking for Clonk. Trust Logan's instincts and your smarts. Your mom and I will go out looking for the red cub as soon as we can. Matthew, if you're done with the computer by then, you can come with us. He smiled at Logan. We'll start at the pizza place. Matthew snorted and stalked off to Melissa's office without looking at any of them. Logan felt vaguely guilty, as if he'd caused a fight, but surely the same thing would have happened with or without him here. He hoped Matthew wasn't mad at him. He checked his phone while Zoe and Blue got their bikes, but there were no messages from his dad. He probably thought it was way too early for Logan to be up on a Saturday. Logan sent him a text that said, thanks for letting me stay over last night. Going biking with Blue now. A minute later, his phone buzzed. Sounds great. Have fun. They paused at the bottom of the driveway, and Logan saw Zoe looking up the street toward the Sterling mansion. She twisted one hand around the other wrist and turned to him. We saw brown feathers outside the post office yesterday, but Matthew managed to check inside while we were in school and said he didn't find anything. I get it, Logan said. The post office has those steps and columns outside. To Clonk, it would kind of look like the bank. Where Clink went. Let's check it again. The post office and school were in the center of town, halfway between the menagerie and Logan's house. The school, of course, was deserted on a Saturday. It looked kind of weirdly abandoned, like in a zombie movie. To Logan's disappointment, the post office wasn't open yet. He poked the sign on the door. 10 to noon, he said. Geez, maybe I should be a postal worker when I grow up. The feathers are gone, Zoe said, scanning the steps. Probably blew away, Blue said. Logan glanced across the street and saw someone drive into the school parking lot. Instinct made him grab Zoe and Blue and pull them behind one of the columns. Look, he said, nodding at the lot. It was the school librarian again, Miss Samira. She parked her white Vespa and stood on the front steps of the school for a moment, looking up and down the street and twirling something in her hands. Suddenly, Zoe gasped and grabbed Logan's arm. Look, she whispered. The librarian was holding a large brown feather.